Okay, I think this seems like a nice theme for the system that I'm dealing with here. Gravity. Gray still plays. Florida Man Coffee stuff. I don't know. Get in there. Hit that like button. Subscribe. I love it when I'm doing work processing. Nothing like that masochism coming through with just that clip art fast and slamming through it like this. Nothing better. It's one of them few things I can watch where mathematics and other stuff, you either have to focus in on it or not give a shit. And if you don't give a shit when it comes to it, then you math teachers are going to just slide whatever they want right across in front of you. Now, this is a statement again, that if you're not gonna have kids, something happens to them, your apple pie got clapped in the stone mill, something, that it's important that we bring into context just some of this that I'm doing with my bookworks here. Jeremy Reed there, give him the bird, or the fly fishing almanac, or the 42 feet, or the high school method here. Here I'm just plowing through it. So until I get to the good stuff for us adults, we got to stick with what we already know a million times and try to do our best to Gresham's law, that notation. And just so you notice that is town Gresham's law into a field theory. That's 80% of it, right? And I'm just beating the drum right now in case you're already in on this. You're gonna have to get used to that until I have a prep meeting with you personally and I know what context you've covered. Otherwise, you write in on the record button for the new case study, that M1, M2, Mn superposition under the Laplacian. That's why when you got to keep content pretty good, it's gonna be used against you as soon as you start evaluating that to a certain degree. And that's daycare, right? You're just watching kids, trying to separate them. What's a 1-year-old? Honestly, they have a lot of potty trained, walking, spelling, and you're trying to stay on top of that about what this is. And I know somebody's going to tell me, but Jordan, you did not start daycare up here. Well, no, but I think it's relative to the notation, talking it out, just drawing out some architecture or some blueprinting and things like that, and actually doing some itemization. I can't necessarily put a monetary value to all this because, well, I don't know exactly how long that's going to be good at those values. And I certainly just can't write them in stone and expect it to hold value forever like that. It's not what I'm trying to do. Kids, baby, M1, nursery, pretty straightforward. It's going to look like the most infant nursery you can find, no matter what system we're dealing with here, right? The nursery infant system on what we're dealing with here is going to be based in the M1, M2, Mn. You have the large daycare code programs, and you have the Second Amendment 2A, where this has directors, managers, security, and workers equally like a director, but now you're taking in a lot of those responsibilities as yourself, much like a parent would, where there's rules. There's also kind of the standard. There's the basic life, which most people would have educated to the school, and it would come down to that Klein bottle instead of the individual sciences, which we're still adding to this system today. We're moving right? Good. And that's an important nursery notation of how we're addendum to the daycare standards as a range. Basically, it's the same write-out, but now we're saying between a year, or infant and a year. We're saying between a year and 3 years. And tested. The range of standards are tested and administered for an infant and a year old, right? So we're staying on that subject. When up into the whatever bassinet phase until they come to this first bassinet crib, until we start to develop them into a bed and some of the criteria that comes with that, right? So inside here we're in the bassinet phase. That's infant to birth. And then we're coming down here into the crib phase of that nursery section, and that is the M1 into M2. Now that the kid's out of the bassinet phase, they're into the simpler industrial crib size, because they're going to burn through that fast. This is, I forget exactly what the factorial is, but I'm trying to stretch this out to what the 5-year-old is going to be. So infant, they're not moving around. You don't really need all the kind of the toys, but you definitely need the bounce chair, the infant walker and child walker, something that can range between that M1 and M2, so you're not buying two pieces of equipment. It may be a little big for them when they're an infant, and it may be a little small for them when they're a bit older into that M1 phase. Most kids are in the Buchholz average, right? In short of conditions. Remember, this is optimal. This is no conditions or nonsense going on short of, where was med supplies? I think I have it in here. Yeah, med supplies, which is in the dresser or storage aspect. And again, especially these first two parts, dresser and storage, now that we already have it, will it still hold what I need for an M1 child or an M2 child? Officer, fire, EMT, teacher, substitute into any kind of jobs that you have. And then we're going to start moving that into some charts and exercises, right? Now that the kid is 5 years old, now that the fire or the police officer has been here the 90 days, the 180, the 360, and that's going to, there's somewhere in there you lose 90, right? You're just trying to wash that over. The first 90 and 90 is 180. 90 and 180 is 270, so you got to add that extra 90 on it. And that's kind of your dues for the officers in here. I got to make that fit to a sensible year, or you could argue that is quarters. That's a fair evaluation. It should work to the mass gap on the accepted general accounting principle for that time frame, as long as everybody's staying into it. Now again, it's out there somewhere loose in the ether, but hopefully for a little bit you could say what I'm trying to design, right? When we get up here to some of those other comments, Salty, you're getting into, where is it? Yeah, I don't have a kid, Gunny, so I'm gonna think about this like I'm planning that parenthood ship to myself. I'm planning it like there could be somebody else grading me and watching me on it. I'm grading that like, let's say that there's even a farther extreme on that for what that Fed notation would be, so we could get it back to that IMA director and oversight standards instead of just the security manager parent that I would have to data mine on Apple phones out there or something to see some of this material to get it there. Now again, this is very common stuff. You've probably seen this a million times. Well, have you ever seen it Gresham's law in the right way? Again, things you see in a kindergarten class all the time. Maybe I made some special tweaks to make it fit inside of here before I define that. When you try those different structures in different ways, they have different physical optics. Now, can we take that chart with a kid or a teacher and then get them to result better in terms of spelling, letters? I don't need a bunch of words. It's arguable what I could have done with this space, but I thought left and right for the age was necessary. Otherwise, I would have gone with shapes and colors, but you've hopefully seen some of my other stuff. Let's see if I can grab that real quick, where that would be. I think that's in here. Yeah, you see a bunch of these log charts and different variables for it, so you got to be a little, I didn't quite get the one I wanted in here. Oh yeah, this one right here, this log chart inside here, you're going to get a lot of that stuff. This is for the next, this is for that being elementary, kindergarten through 5. Now we're starting to get into middle school and high school, which I might break this down in half or something like that, make it the more complicated Latin and symbols. What are, we get into the brackets. I need the other one. I need the brackets, parentheses, integrals, closed surface integrals, all those kinds of things, square roots. That's a great chart to add into the high school level, and maybe even both of these, because the way that works. That kindergarten chart in line with what this one would be, and then this one with that other one, because now I'm starting to do, I can add a temperature together, one temperature plus a temperature together. I can do a bunch of fun stuff. We can start to open up into that a little bit about what their character card is capable of under M1 and M2, I hat, J hat, all that fun stuff. When we get into the high school level, we're going to start to get into that more complicated jumping bones over the area, the curve issue, some computer engineering stuff about that king and pawn. It's like any kind of king to a pawn or king to another black pawn on that board has a lot of chirality going on. And the kids don't need to know all of that for sure. They just need to know the certain little part that I'm breaking off to them, like just this experiment or just this one part of it for now. Life will get more complicated and we'll stack those things up. Um, Nephilim here to the problem. Any other points I wanted to get out inside of there? Specifically about it, any kind of fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, you could have pushed this out. I think it covers the nice lattice, right? We got numbers, we got letters, starting X and Y, 26 letters. I was lucky that I had 30 characters in here, and this one kind of got lucky with that square law in here. I probably wouldn't have gone out to 5. I think that just increases the pattern while I'm putting it out to here, but you'll see it's not 5. Down here, is it? It's a weird thing. It's just a pattern recognition. It's a kindergarten cognitive, or excuse me, coordinate positions. Can you show me what 5 times 5 is on this chart? You know, and it's going to start to slide you off into that Laplacian. Again, not necessary. We probably don't need divisible rules while we're data mining this out, right? You know, and especially this up here too. Why did I start with this up here being so complicated as what it is? Just because it's up there doesn't mean that they don't need to recognize that. See, they're not all reading left to right or up and down. They have very specific units, and that's a pattern recognition thing. Things that I want to start to gauge on, much like can they spell? Can they organize what a number is out of with a chart or without a chart? Can they do those things? And I'm not saying all that, but that just the aspect color, recognize, am I reinforcing those kinds of standards with a chart like this? And again, it gets pretty heavy. You know, make sure that if you got a 5-year-old that can count, well, counting out to a trillion is going to take too long. And, you know, counting out to 1,000 or 900, these bricks are a little heavy inside of what it does. So, well, let's just get them out to 20 or 30, where I can start to just slide that off into 10 phases that are different. There's a big spelling difference here as well, Pavlovian dogs, about what it does out to 19 and 20. Not 20, not 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And that's a fun little phase to break that off into M1, M2, MN, M1, M2, MN. And you're going to want to see a lot of those spinners or a lot of those things that are involved in a lot of this from a teacher's perspective. Again, just because you do not believe in gravity does not mean gravity does not believe in you. Okay, catch you on the next one.